What's up, y'all? I got another video from you or for you. And this one's pretty much about how you have to confront evil whenever it's right in your face. I want to start off by saying I don't really believe in full, good, evil, nice, wrong, right. Um, I think there's more nuance, at least to people, to animals. No one's one thing. I know we like to demonize people and label them as one thing, and that's pretty much what we're just going to kind of just allow them just to be that one specific label and not really give them that grace to be anything else. But when you do see an action that you don't agree with, when you do see someone acting very maliciously and acting out of cruelty, and you just see something that can very easily be labeled as evil or as bad or as cruel, you kind of have to confront it at some point. There's just something in all of us that when we see those acts, it kind of leaves a mark on us, and it kind of forces its way to the front of your brain, the front of your consciousness, to where you're like, this isn't right. What's happening in front of me isn't really right. Obviously, like I said, people have a different viewpoint of what is good, what is wrong, what is right. But for the most part, we do have a very shared experience on like abuse, cruelty, and how we treat each other. So whenever you're confronted with those evil things, with those cruel things, you kind of eventually have to act upon it, or it's going to eat at you. Especially if you're the one um, perpetrating those actions, those acts. It's something that is you just know, like your unconscious, your consciousness is going to remind you of the things that you did, and you're going to have to find different ways to cope with it. And a lot of people find very unhealthy ways of coping with the actions that they take, knowing that they're wrong, and they try to find short-term copes to deal with it. But the long term, they're just hurting themselves, and they know they're not going to be happy or fulfilled people. Whenever they're doing is done. I'm dealing with a bunch of people. I've always dealt with people who were like this. I'm dealing with a bunch of people now, especially nowadays, and you can tell those people are very miserable. They're not happy with their lives, and they're trying to find different ways of dealing with what they're doing, what they're going through, and how they can justify their actions, not really wanting to take more time to be introspective about what's actually going on, being empathetic to the other people involved. It's very selfish, and it's self-serving. And whenever, at least for myself, whenever I see it, I kind of have to at least bring it into reality about like what I just witnessed, what I just saw, and how it makes me feel. And eventually, after a certain amount of time, I do have to take action and be like, no, this isn't right. I don't like this. Not only for myself, but for everyone involved. I'm always looking to do things that are bigger than myself. I don't really want to be like a hyper selfish person. Obviously, we're all going to be selfish. I'm a selfish person. We're all going to have a level of selfishness to kind of get our needs met. But at the same time, you try to cause like the least amount of collateral damage or damage in general as possible whenever you're trying to get whatever needs you need to be fulfilled met. So I can understand that. I can empathize with people being like, I'm doing this, kind of justifying their acts by being like, this isn't just for me, it's for other people, it's for people who I care about. That does make some like logical sense. But there's always a danger of being too logical. You take a lot of the emotion out of it. And since we're all very emotional creatures, will find we all will be put in a position to where we're going to be making on the surface, a very logical decision, but when you really look deeper into it, it was very emotional. And that's where I think a lot of the meanness, the cruelty, the evil comes from. Is from an emotional base that they try to logically make sense of. You know, when people want to abuse people, they want to be like, oh, well, he did this, this, and this, or she did this, this, and this. She said that, he said that. And in reality, they did it because they were in their feelings, and they don't want to, even though those feelings are valid, they don't want to make, they also want to make their actions valid at the same time by completely disregarding that they're acting on their feelings. Um, so it's something that, you know, a lot of people will tend to do. I know I've probably done it in the past where I've done something that I was cruel or mean, and I justify it with something that someone did or something that someone said. We all do it. So I want to get that. I want to extend an olive branch and give that empathy to those people, but at the same time, you can't always just justify those actions, especially when they're repeated multiple times, and there's kind of it becomes a pattern of them being cruel, of them being malicious, of them just not really empathizing with other people, especially when they're doing those actions out of fear, out of the fear of the unknown, out of the fear of, you know, consequences for them. They will justify those acts. And yeah, if you're someone, especially if you're someone who's gifted, especially if you're someone who's like a big presence, and you're seeing these things, you know, I'm speaking for myself, I'm speaking for other people as well. You kind of have to do something about it. You might not have to, you know, confront those actions or those people, if that's not, you know, how you want to get down. But those evils need to be confronted, or they're just going to be magnified, and a lot of people are going to get hurt, if they aren't being hurt already. And that's moving forward. You know, I'm definitely seeing like a huge culture shift, especially since more people are becoming, getting diagnosed, becoming neurodivergent. We do have that collective sense of justice, especially if you have ADHD. So people know right from wrong, and our conscience will kind of gravitate us towards, you know, things that kind of make things right or whatever. But at the same time, it still doesn't keep us. We still have our human, emotions and our reactions and our nature that we've kind of we've evolved to do things a little bit differently. But there's so many things about who we are as animals that we just keep, you know, and we can't really get rid of them. Just kind of have to navigate life with them. And one of those things is, you know, just acting out of cruelty. So when you do see that, you do have to address it. It is kind of like life or death. I mean, it is life or death out here for a lot of people, for all of us, you know. And for me especially, you know, as a gifted black man, that's not we're not the most protected class here. At least when we are alive. When we're not alive, then obviously people care. But once we're walking around the streets and all that, people don't really value us too much. So I can definitely attest to that. And I've also seen a lot of cruelty from black people as well, a lot of evil. So it's not like no one's immune to it. But at the same time, you still have to speak out on it and really kind of get, because it's going to eat at you as well as the person who's committing those acts. And it's unfortunate, you know. No one really wants to have to go out there and try to police people or try to protect people that they don't know, or put themselves in a dangerous situation when you know the person who's doing those acts can repeat those acts onto you. But at the same time, you know, you definitely got to have your own moral compass and being like, you know what, is what's happening here is bigger than me. Can I actually make a difference here? And will me intervening in this situation make things better or make it worse in the long term? I don't really see too many things in the short term anymore. I'm more sort of a long term thinker. And yeah, I look at things from like the longer perspective. You know, I'm not really, because of my childhood, because of how I was raised and what I've seen, I'm not really afraid to die. I've met death quite a few times. I pretty much see him on a daily basis. And so it definitely lowers, you know, my fear of it, because yeah, it comes for everybody. And I've definitely come to terms with that. So it makes it easier for me to call out evils and cruelty without having that fear of death that a lot of people still have, you know, which is normal, is natural. But I'm hoping as society continues to evolve that we teach people that death is inevitable. It's part of the circle of life, and it comes for everybody. No one knows when it's going to come, but it's going to come. So that also might justify people to act more cruelty, but then that shall also justify people to act good and kind and try to spread the least amount of misery as possible. A lot of people like to, misery loves company, but all emotions love company. We all want to be happy together. We all want to be sad together, and everything in between. So it's something that I'm keeping very close to my heart about what I want to see and what I want to put out into the world. But the cruelty that I'm seeing and experiencing recently is just telling me how miserable people are and how scared people are about the future and about themselves and what's going on, because people who are miserable, people who are doing good things, great things, and trying to do better for other people, they don't act this way. They're not as miserable, they're not as cruel, they're not as evil as the people who are just kind of like throwing their hands up and being like, okay, what do I got to do to get out of this? What do I got to do to make a difference or whatever? And they'll take that out on other people. I'm noticing. So the main thing is when you see evil, you gotta call it out eventually, or it's gonna eat at you. You cannot allow it to stay within you and spread and turn you to someone that you don't have to be. There's good and evil in everyone. There's a lot of nuance in all of us, and once you kind of harness those negative emotions and those thoughts and kind of let them flow through you, then you can kind of start to see things a little bit differently. But it can be difficult to really face those demons and being like, what, I'm not 100% good person. I'm just trying to be every single day, but I do want to spread the least amount of cruelty that I can. And when I see someone acting cruel, I am going to speak out on it. I'm going to be doing that next few hours with someone who's been acting very cruel to a bunch of people that I care about and to myself as well. And I know that person is scared, so they're going to do the absolute most when they see me coming. But at the same time, I know that in the long term, this is going to be for the best. That this person knows that their cruelty will no longer be accepted the way that it is, and if they want to continue with, then things are going to change. Especially if you're going to be cruel and you know that it affects people mentally, and you want to spread that misery that you have within yourself. People are going to defend themselves from that in different ways, and I know I am. I'm going to continue doing that because, I'm just not going to sit around. I never really have, but more and more now, I'm not going to sit around and allow people just to be cruel because of how they feel, and how they feel about other people and how they feel about themselves. That is not something I'm going to allow, and I know a lot of people are speaking up, especially the younger generation. A lot of people are upset that they're not working and not doing this, that, and the third. But one thing I do love about the younger generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, is that they are speaking out, and they are really saying the quiet part out loud. They aren't as indoctrinated as the baby boomers and Gen Z and even Gen X and even the millennials in my generation. They aren't as brainwashed as we are. They aren't as indoctrinated as we are. So they are able to say the quiet part out loud, and they will be doing that. So while the older generation starts to fade away and the newer generation starts to come to fruition, there will be a better time. I think in my last video I said the 2030s is going to be a great decade. I truly mean that, because they're going to be older, they're going to be wiser, they're going to see all this, and they're going to be ready to speak about the evil. And we are definitely going to have a really great renaissance here. But things are going to get a little bit worse. People are going to be more cruel, more evil, but we will withstand it together and get through it so we can make a better future for everyone, because that's what we're looking for. But that's it. Speak the evil out, call it out, and that's how we're moving into the 2030s. Hope to see y'all there.